Greetings to you viewers from across the globe. You're welcome to the show Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. I'm your host, Odiawa AI, for Veegil Media. You'll do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Veegil Media, and follow us across various social media platforms. Don't forget to download the app on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Moving on the show today, we'll be talking about the new retirement age as professed by the federal government and what people have to say or the stakeholders have to say concerning the retirement age, and not just the retirement age, but also the elongation or stay or duration of stay in service. But first off, the headlines making the rounds in the political space. Now, Beta Edu seems to be following, or trail reaction seems to be following Beta Edu as Tinubu suspends Beta Edu and also directs the AFCC chair to conduct investigations. Now, after days of sizzling outrage against the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Beta Edu, over a messy disbursement scandal, President Bola Tinubu announced the first suspension of a member of his 48-man cabinet on Monday, removing the 37-year-old from office with immediate effect. Controversy had enveloped Edu's alleged involvement in the approval of close to 585 million naira to be disbursed into a personal account. Now, in a letter allegedly signed by the humanitarian minister, she instructed the Accountant General of the Federation, Oluwatoyin Madeyin, to transfer the sum to the account of one Oniyelu Bridget as grants for vulnerable groups in 4 states. Now, Madeyin confirmed that although her office received a request from the humanitarian ministry to make certain payments, her office did not act on it. Edu subsequently said there were plans to tarnish her image, adding that she won't embezzle government funds. Incidentally, the EFCC is, as we speak presently, probing Edu's predecessor, Sadiya Farouk, over alleged laundering of 37.1 billion during her tenure as minister under the same office in the administration of ex-president Muhammadu Buhari. Now, on Sunday, the federal government acknowledged the outrage and said the president had ordered a thorough probe on Edu's ministry. Also on Monday, just yesterday, the president had to give in or cave in to pressure and suspend Edu, as well as directed the EFCC chairman to conduct a thorough investigation into all aspects of the financial transactions involving the ministry or the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, as well as one or more agencies thereunder. The president also directed the suspended minister to hand over to the permanent secretary of the ministry and fully cooperate with the investigating authorities as they conduct their investigations. Now, Edu, who is 37 and is also the youngest in the president's cabinet before her suspension, was a fast-rising Amazon, if I may address her that way, in the political space, having occupied state and national offices at a young age. And also, before her ministerial appointment as of last August, she was Cross River State's Commissioner for Health and the national women leader of the ruling APC. Edu was a prominent figure in the campaign train of Tinubu, the then APC presidential candidate, during the electioneering process that brought the ex-Lagos State governor into office as president. Edu has clinched her ministerial appointment about 3 months after Tinubu was sworn in as president. Her tenure as minister was, in any case, short-lived, barely 6 months after, perhaps the shortest tenure by a minister in a very long while. Now, moving on, the court fines the federal government 100 million naira for violation of Emefiele's rights. Justice Olukayode Adeni of the Federal Capital Territory High Court, Abuja, has awarded the sum of 100 million naira against the federal government in favor of the former CBN governor, Godwin Emefiele, for the violation of his right to personal liberty. Now, the court also declared his prolonged detention without trial as a flagrant violation of his fundamental rights. It also restrained the federal government and its agents from rearresting or detaining Emefiele without a court order. The judgment was actually given in a fundamental rights suit filed by the CBN governor following his prolonged detention in custody of the Department of State Services, the DSS. He had asked the court to order the respondents to pay the sum of 1 billion naira damages and to restrain them from further arresting or detaining him. Now, the former CBN chief was arrested as at 10th of June 2023 shortly after his suspension by incumbent President Tinubu. Moving on, it appears we seem to be having fraud cases making the rounds in the political scene. Now, 37 billion naira fraud. Now, this is EFCC as they quiz ex-humanitarian minister Sadiya Farouk. Now, officials of the anti-graft agency EFCC on Monday quizzed ex-minister of humanitarian affairs, disaster management and social development Sadiya Farouk over an alleged laundering of 37.1 billion naira. Farouk was still at the office of the EFCC as of 6 p.m. as of yesterday on Monday, as she was still being quizzed by the interrogators. The ex-minister had shown previous investigations or invitations by the anti-graft agency, but later explained that she would honor the invites. The former minister had earlier failed to honor the invitation of the anti-graft agency on the alleged laundering of 37.1 billion during her tenure. She in any case wrote a letter to apologize to the commission over her failure to be present or to honor the invitation. Spokesman of the EFCC, Dele Oyiwale, had told news sources that the former minister wrote to the anti-graft agency explaining that she was indisposed for now and therefore could not appear before the commission. Now, Betta Ado is back on the scene again. Minister who is actually making the rounds concerning the embezzlement of 585 billion naira plus. Now, Betta Ado spotted as the presidential villa, blocked from meeting Bola Tinubu. Now, suspended Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Betta Ado, was spotted at the Aso Villa in Abuja moments after her suspension on Monday afternoon. Now, sources can actually confirm this, that she was denied access to meet Bola Tinubu. Now, with respect to that, I assume that it's in a bid to at least defend her name or clear her name from any allegations in which she's been suspected of. Now, after fruitless efforts, the embattled minister was seen leaving the villa about 30 minutes after her suspension was announced. The 37-year-old, as we speak, was caught in a 585 million naira disbursement scandal involving her ministry, attracting widespread criticism from rights groups and activists and even lawyers alike. Edu's predicament was worsened when the Accountant General of the Federation, Oluwatoyin, confirmed that although her office received a request from the Humanitarian Ministry to certain payments, her office did not actually act on it. Now, that will be all for the headlines making the rounds in the political space. I'm Odiawa AI for Veegil Media. Join me in the next phase of the show. You're welcome back to the show. The show is Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and embrace dialogue. You do well to subscribe to this YouTube channel, Veegil Media. Moving on the show today, we'll be talking about the new retirement age. Now, the recent rejection by the National Council of Establishment, the NCE, of the proposed 65-year retirement age for workers actually is the right call. It's a welcome recognition of the imprudence of changing the status quo in a society with an explosively high population of unemployed youths and shrinking job opportunities. The NCE rightly noted that the proposed upward review of the retirement age negates the principle of renewal, youth empowerment, and innovation. Frankly speaking, I tend to agree with these arguments. In its response to calls by the NLC for an upward review of the retirement age from 60 to 65, the organization said Council rejected outright the request for the upward review of retirement age for public servants to 40 years of service or 65 years of age, as is contrary to national aspiration of renewal, youth empowerment, and innovation, and also not in line with the reality of population dynamics. The proponents of 65 years as a new age requirement of 40 years in service, whichever emerges first, argues that the country is losing many experienced workers who are still active and agile and can contribute meaningfully to the nation's development. Now, in line with this, which I have just said in the previous paragraph, the federal government had at a different time adjusted the retirement age from categories of public servants, including judges and judicial officers, lecturers and non-academic staff in tertiary institutions and primary and secondary schools who are actually teachers. Now, the incumbent chief executive had also, in June 2023, assented to a constitution. By that I mean Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, as of June 2023, he assented to a constitution amending a bill harmonizing the retirement age of judges and the judicial officers to 70 to bring the uniformity, their retirement age and pension rights. Now, hitherto, the state and the federal high courts, national industrial courts, Sharia, and customary courts of appeal judges retire at 65, while Supreme Court judges retire at 70. The misplaced policy here started with the current administration's immediate predecessor, Muhammad Buhari, who in 2022 signed a law increasing the retirement age for teachers to 65. No fewer than 15 states have actually started implementing that law, according to the Nigerian Union of Teachers, that's the NUT. Well, with all said and done, in my own view, my own opinion, extending the retirement age, in any case, is counterproductive, ill-considered, and a reflection of the lack of strategic thinking by the governing elite, if I may put it that way. Nigeria has an unemployment rate of 33.3%. It also has the world's second highest number of jobless youths with 53% in the segment after South Africa's 61%. Now, this is according to Status Index as of 2023 last year. Millions remain jobless years after graduation, and it's quite sad. You see people who are quite, sound in mind and sound in skill, but yet still they lack that job. Why? Because the climate doesn't even support even their efforts. Now, the World Bank reported that 19 million Nigerian youths entered the labor market in the 5 years to 2021, about 300,000 each month, while only 3.5 million jobs were created within the period, thereby leaving about 80% adrift or aloof, and they are clueless on how to make the next move. It is said 30 million new jobs would have to be created by 2030 just to keep the current employment rate constant. Now, with this reality staring us in the face, evidently, the federal government and state government ought to be taking up policies to reduce the retirement age and encourage long-serving workers to retire early to reduce the large army of qualified but jobless youths. Now, going forward, rather than extending the retirement age or the length of service, the government should employ younger people. Let me put it that way. But it doesn't therefore mean they should end up like some better do by embezzling. Let me put it that way, if actually or factually that's true. Current or future administrations at the federal and state level should provide incentives also, which is quite considerable because that is enough motivation for the individual to do more, depending on the age bracket. Encouraging incumbent civil servants with 30 years and above in service to take early retirement without losing their benefits. They should introduce policies reducing the retirement age and maximum length of services. This should be accompanied by cost-cutting and massive private sector-led job creating and investment policies. Privatization and liberalization of key economic sectors are crucial in these efforts to achieve net gains in the long run. Conclusively speaking, the service elongation moves, frankly speaking, must be dropped. I'm Odiawa AI for Veegil Media, and the show is Viewpoint, where we discover perspectives and also embrace dialogue. You do well to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Veegil Media, and follow us across various social media platforms. Don't forget to download the app on the Google Play Store and the Apple App Store. Thanks for watching.